Jonathan Pierce stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office, watching the sun set over Boston's skyline. At 45, he was the founder and CEO of Pierce Financial Group, a man whose investment decisions moved markets and whose name appeared regularly in Forbes and the Wall Street Journal. He had money, power, respect, everything society said should make a person happy. So why did he feel so empty? His phone buzzed with a text from his executive assistant. Reminder, board dinner tonight at 8 p.m. Car will be downstairs at 7:30. Jonathan sighed. Another dinner full of networking and strategic conversations where everyone wanted something from him. Another night of performing the role of successful billionaire while feeling increasingly disconnected from everything and everyone around him. Mr. Pierce. A soft voice at the door made him turn. Elena Martinez stood in the doorway of his home office, her cleaning supplies cart beside her. She was his housekeeper, or rather, one of the housekeepers employed by the service his assistant had hired. Elena worked Monday, Wednesday, and Friday evenings, arriving at 6 p.m. and leaving around 9 p.m. to clean his penthouse apartment. "I'm finished with the main rooms," Elena said in her quiet, slightly accented voice. "Would you like me to do your office now, or should I come back later?" "Now is fine," Jonathan said, moving away from the window. "I need to get ready for dinner anyway." Elena nodded and began her methodical work. Dusting, vacuuming, organizing. Jonathan had barely noticed her in the 6 months she'd been cleaning his apartment. She was part of the background, invisible in the way that service workers often are to wealthy people too absorbed in their own lives to see the humans serving them. But lately, Jonathan had begun to notice things. Small things. Elena was always punctual, always thorough, always respectful. She never made noise, never intruded, never asked for anything beyond her regular paycheck. She moved through his space like a ghost, leaving everything perfect in her wake. And she was always reading. Jonathan had noticed it a few weeks ago. During her brief breaks, Elena would pull a book from her bag, always different books, always worn paperbacks that looked like they'd been read multiple times. Last week it had been Tolstoy. This week, he'd glimpsed Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Not exactly typical reading for a cleaning woman, Jonathan had thought, then immediately felt ashamed of his own prejudice. Why shouldn't a housekeeper read classic literature? "Elena," Jonathan said on impulse as she was dusting his bookshelf. "That book you're reading, 100 Years of Solitude, what do you think of it?" Elena looked up, surprised at being addressed beyond basic instructions. "It's beautiful, Mr. Pierce. Sad and beautiful. The way Marquez writes about time and memory and how families carry their history, it's like poetry." Her English was excellent, Jonathan noted, with only the slightest accent. And her analysis of the book was more insightful than what he'd heard from Harvard-educated colleagues. "You enjoy reading," he observed. "Yes, sir. Very much. Books have always been." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Important to me. What else do you like to read?" Elena looked uncomfortable with the extended conversation, as if she wasn't sure why her employer was suddenly interested in her literary preferences. "Many things. Right now I'm working through the Russian masters. Before that, I read a lot of philosophy, Camus, Sartre, some Kierkegaard." Jonathan stared at her. "That's quite ambitious reading." Elena's cheeks flushed slightly. "I should get back to work, Mr. Pierce. I'm sorry for taking up your time." "You're not taking up my time," Jonathan said, but Elena had already turned back to her dusting, clearly wanting to end the conversation. Jonathan went to get ready for his dinner, but the brief exchange stayed with him. There was something about Elena Martinez that didn't add up. The sophisticated reading, the articulate way she spoke when pressed, the careful way she carried herself, it all suggested someone who was more than she appeared to be. Over the next 2 weeks, Jonathan found himself paying more attention to Elena. He noticed that she was probably in her late 30s, with dark hair usually pulled back in a practical ponytail, warm brown eyes, and a face that might have been beautiful if it weren't always arranged in such careful neutrality. He noticed that she wore the same 3 outfits in rotation, all clean and neat but clearly worn. He noticed that her hands were rough and chapped from cleaning chemicals, despite her obvious efforts to care for them. And he noticed that she never, ever talked about herself. When his assistant had asked for emergency contact information, Elena had provided only a phone number. No family members, no friends, just her own cell phone. Who was Elena Martinez? And why was Jonathan suddenly so curious about his housekeeper? The question became more pressing one Friday evening when Jonathan came home early from a cancelled meeting. It was 8:30 p.m. Elena should have been finishing up her work. But when Jonathan entered the penthouse, he heard something unexpected, crying. He followed the sound to the kitchen and found Elena sitting on the floor, her back against the cabinets, her face buried in her hands, sobbing quietly. Her phone lay on the floor beside her, its screen dark. "Elena," Jonathan said, concerned. "What's wrong? Are you hurt?" Elena's head snapped up, her eyes wide with panic. She immediately scrambled to her feet, wiping her face. "Mr. Pierce, I'm so sorry. I didn't know you were home. I'll finish the cleaning right away." "Forget the cleaning," Jonathan said. "Are you okay? What happened?" "Nothing, sir. I'm fine. Just a personal matter. It won't happen again." Elena was already gathering her cleaning supplies, clearly desperate to escape. "Elena, wait." Something in Jonathan's voice made her pause. "You're clearly not fine. You're upset. Can I help?" "No, Mr. Pierce. Thank you, but no. I should go." "At least tell me what's wrong," Jonathan pressed. "Maybe I can." "You can't help," Elena said, and for the first time, there was emotion in her voice, frustration, exhaustion, and something like despair. "This isn't something money can fix. I'm sorry. I'll work extra time on Monday to make up for tonight." She grabbed her bag and was out the door before Jonathan could say another word. He stood in his kitchen, disturbed by the encounter. Elena's tears had been real, deep, wrenching sobs that spoke of genuine pain. And her insistence that he couldn't help, that money couldn't fix it, what did that mean? Jonathan tried to put it out of his mind over the weekend, but he couldn't. By Monday evening, he'd made a decision. He needed to know what was going on with Elena Martinez. When Elena arrived at 6 p.m. on Monday, Jonathan was ready. "Elena, about Friday." "I apologize again for that, Mr. Pierce," Elena interrupted quickly. "It was unprofessional. It won't happen again." "I'm not upset about it," Jonathan said. "I'm concerned. If you're dealing with something difficult, maybe I can help." "You've done enough by giving me this job," Elena said. "I don't need anything else." She clearly wanted to end the conversation, so Jonathan let it drop. But he'd already set his plan in motion. That evening, when Elena left at 9 p.m., Jonathan followed her. He felt ridiculous skulking behind his own employee like a private detective in a bad movie, but his curiosity had transformed into genuine concern. Something was wrong in Elena's life, something significant enough to make her break down crying on his kitchen floor. And for reasons he didn't fully understand, Jonathan felt compelled to find out what it was. Elena took the subway, so Jonathan did too, staying several cars behind. She rode for 30 minutes, eventually exiting in a neighborhood Jonathan rarely visited, not dangerous, exactly, but economically depressed. Closed storefronts, chain-link fences, groups of people loitering on corners. Elena walked quickly, her head down, her bag clutched tightly. Jonathan followed at a distance, feeling increasingly guilty about invading her privacy but unable to stop himself. She turned down a side street and entered a rundown apartment building. Jonathan waited 5 minutes, then followed. The building was exactly what he'd expected: peeling paint, flickering lights, a faint smell of mildew and cooking grease. There was no doorman, no security. Jonathan checked the mailboxes in the lobby and found Martinez listed for apartment 3C. He climbed the stairs, his expensive shoes echoing on the worn linoleum. He found 3C and stood outside the door, suddenly unsure what he was doing. Before he could decide whether to knock or leave, he heard voices inside. Elena's voice, speaking Spanish, and then another voice, young, weak, coughing. A child's voice. Jonathan's heart clenched. Elena had a child? He listened, not understanding the Spanish words but hearing the tone. Elena's voice was gentle, soothing, clearly comforting the coughing child. Then more coughing, harsh and persistent, and Elena's voice rising with worry. Jonathan knocked before he could talk himself out of it. The apartment went silent. After a long moment, the door opened a crack and Elena's face appeared, her eyes widening in shock when she saw her employer standing in her doorway. "Mr. Pierce?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "What are you? How did you?" "I followed you," Jonathan admitted. "I'm sorry. I know it was wrong, but I was worried about you. After Friday He stopped, hearing how insane he sounded. "I'm sorry. I'll go." But then the coughing started again from inside the apartment, and Elena's face crumpled with worry and exhaustion. "Please," Jonathan said quietly. "Let me help. Whatever this is, whatever you're dealing with, let me help." Elena looked at him for a long moment, and Jonathan could see her weighing her options, her pride warring with her desperation. Finally, she opened the door wider. "Come in." The apartment was tiny, a studio, really, with a small kitchen area, a bathroom, and a main room that served as bedroom and living room combined. But despite its size and obvious age, it was immaculately clean and organized. A small bookshelf overflowed with books. A child's drawings were taped to the walls. And in a narrow bed against the far wall lay a little girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old, with dark hair and large brown eyes. She was pale and thin, and her breathing was labored. "This is my daughter, Sophia," Elena said quietly. "Sophia, this is Mr. Pierce, the man I work for." "Hello," Sophia said in a small voice, then immediately started coughing again. Elena rushed to her daughter's side, helping her sit up, rubbing her back. Jonathan watched, his concern deepening. This wasn't a common cold. The child was seriously ill. When the coughing subsided, Elena gave Sophia some water and smoothed her hair back from her fevered forehead. "Try to rest, mi amor. I'll make dinner soon." She turned back to Jonathan, her expression a mixture of embarrassment and defiance. "Now you know my secret, Mr. Pierce. I'm a single mother with a sick child, living in a rundown apartment and working as a housekeeper. Is that what you wanted to find out?" "What's wrong with her?" Jonathan asked, ignoring Elena's defensive tone. "Cystic fibrosis," Elena said flatly. "A genetic disorder that affects the lungs and digestive system. It's progressive, incurable, and requires constant treatments that are very expensive." Jonathan felt like he'd been hit in the chest. "How expensive?" Elena laughed bitterly. "More than I make in a year. More than I'll probably ever make. Sophia needs daily medications, regular doctor visits, chest physiotherapy, and eventually, probably soon, more intensive interventions. The medications alone cost thousands a month." "You have insurance through the cleaning service?" "Basic insurance that covers almost nothing," Elena interrupted. "I've applied for assistance programs, Medicaid, everything I can think of. Some help, some don't. We get by. Barely. But it's never enough. And Sophia keeps getting worse." She turned away, her shoulders tight. "That's why I was crying on Friday. Sophia had an infection. The doctor prescribed a new antibiotic that insurance won't cover. It costs $800. I don't have $800. I barely had enough for the urgent care visit." "Why didn't you tell me?" Jonathan asked. "Why didn't you ask for help?" Elena spun back to face him, her eyes flashing. "Because I'm not a charity case, Mr. Pierce. Because I've worked hard my entire life, and I don't want to be seen as someone who's asking for handouts. Because rich people don't want to hear about their housekeeper's problems. They just want their homes cleaned and their lives comfortable." "That's not fair," Jonathan said, stung. "Isn't it?" Elena challenged. "Be honest, Mr. Pierce. Before tonight, did you even know my last name? Did you know I had a daughter? Did you see me as a person at all, or just as the invisible woman who made your home perfect?" Jonathan wanted to argue, but he couldn't. She was right. He'd been so absorbed in his own privileged life that he'd never bothered to see the human being serving him. "You're right," he said quietly. "I didn't see you. I should have, but I didn't. And I'm sorry for that. But I'm seeing you now, Elena. I'm seeing Sophia. And I want to help. I don't want your pity." "It's not pity," Jonathan interrupted. It's doing the right thing. You work for me. You're part of my household. That means you're my responsibility. I'm an employee, not your responsibility, Elena said. Then consider it a raise, Jonathan said. Or a bonus. Or a loan if that makes you feel better. I don't care what we call it. I'm going to help Sophia get the care she needs. Elena stared at him, her eyes welling with tears. But why would you do that? Jonathan thought about it. Why was he doing this? It was more than just guilt about not noticing Elena's situation. It was more than wanting to solve a problem because he had the resources to do so. It was because for the first time in years, he'd felt something beyond the numbness that had characterized his life since his divorce. He'd felt genuine concern for another person. He'd felt connected to something beyond his work and his wealth. Because it's the right thing to do, Jonathan said simply. And because no child should suffer when there's someone who can help. Sophia started coughing again, harder this time. Elena rushed to her side, and Jonathan watched the little girl struggle to breathe, her small body racked with coughs. She needs to go to the hospital, Jonathan said urgently. I can't afford. I'm taking her, Jonathan said firmly. He pulled out his phone and called his driver. Michael, I need you at this address immediately. We're taking someone to the hospital. He rattled off the address Elena had on the mailbox. Mr. Pierce, you don't have to. Yes, I do, Jonathan said. He moved to the bed and carefully lifted Sophia in his arms. She was alarmingly light, her breathing wheezy and labored. Come on, sweetheart. We're going to get you some help. Elena grabbed her bag, her phone, and Sophia's medical records folder, clearly something she kept prepared for emergencies. As they headed out the door, she whispered, Thank you. The next several hours were a blur. Jonathan's driver got them to Massachusetts General Hospital in record time. The emergency room staff, recognizing Jonathan Pierce, gave Sophia immediate attention, something that might not have happened had Elena arrived alone with her Medicaid card. Sophia was admitted for pneumonia complicated by her cystic fibrosis. She was put on 4 antibiotics and given breathing treatments. By midnight, she was sleeping peacefully, her breathing easier, monitors beeping reassuringly around her bed. Elena sat in a chair beside the bed, holding Sophia's hand, her eyes red from crying. Jonathan sat across from her, his expensive suit jacket long since discarded, his tie loosened, looking nothing like the polished billionaire who'd started this day. She's going to be okay, a doctor told them. The antibiotics are working. We'll keep her for a few days to make sure the infection clears, but she should make a full recovery from this episode. This episode, Elena repeated. But there will be more. The doctor's expression was sympathetic. With cystic fibrosis, yes. The key is staying on top of her daily treatments, catching infections early, and eventually considering more advanced interventions. After the doctor left, Jonathan asked quietly, What kind of advanced interventions? A double lung transplant, Elena said, her voice hollow. That's the eventual reality for most CF patients. The lungs deteriorate over time. A transplant can extend life expectancy significantly, but... She trailed off. But it's expensive, Jonathan finished. And complicated. And requires ongoing immunosuppressant medications. And there are no guarantees. Elena looked at her daughter's sleeping face. But yes, mainly it's expensive. The surgery alone costs around $1 million. Then there's pre-transplant care, post-transplant care, medications for the rest of her life. It's impossible. It's not impossible, Jonathan said. Elena looked at him. Mr. Pierce, Jonathan, you've already done so much tonight. You brought us here, you made sure Sophia got immediate care. I saw the way the staff treated us differently because you were here. I'm grateful. But you can't fix this. You can't fix cystic fibrosis. You can't fix the fact that I'm a single mother who barely makes enough to survive, let alone pay for the level of care my daughter needs. Why are you alone? Jonathan asked. Sophia's father is not in the picture, Elena said firmly, and hasn't been since Sophia was diagnosed at 18 months. He couldn't handle having a sick child. So he left. I'm sorry. Don't be. I'm better off without him. Sophia is better off without a father who sees her as a burden. Elena looked down at their joined hands. I've been alone before. I can handle being alone. You don't have to be alone anymore, Jonathan said quietly. Elena met his eyes. What do you mean? I mean, I want to help. Not just with tonight's hospital bills, but with everything. Sophia's medications, her treatments, her doctors. All of it. That's too much. It's not too much for me, Jonathan said. Elena, I make more in a week than most people make in a year. Than most people make in a lifetime. Money isn't an issue. What's an issue is that there's a little girl who needs help, and I'm in a position to provide that help. Let me do this. I can't accept charity, Elena said, but her voice was weak. Then don't think of it as charity. Think of it as an investment. I believe in investing in people, Elena. And I believe in you. You're smart. Those books you read, the way you speak when you're not trying to be invisible, you're educated, aren't you? That's what doesn't add up about you working as a housekeeper. Elena was quiet for a long moment. Then, slowly, she began to speak. I have a master's degree in literature from Universidad Nacional Autónoma de Mexico. I was a professor there, teaching Latin American and Spanish literature. I loved my job. I loved my life. But when Sophia was diagnosed, when her father left, when the medical bills started piling up, I couldn't afford to stay in Mexico. I couldn't get her the care she needed there. So you came to Boston, Jonathan said, understanding dawning. So I came to Boston because Massachusetts General has one of the best CF programs in the country. But my Mexican credentials don't transfer easily. My English was good but not perfect. I needed work immediately, work that would support us while I got Sophia established with doctors here. Cleaning pays cash, requires no credentials, and lets me work evenings so I can be with Sophia during the day. You gave up your career for your daughter, Jonathan said. I'd give up anything for my daughter, Elena said simply. She's everything to me. She's brilliant, Jonathan. You'll see when she's feeling better. She loves books like I do, loves learning, loves life. She's only 8 but she's already read Harry Potter in English and Spanish. She wants to be a doctor someday, to help other kids like her. Elena's voice broke. But none of that matters if I can't keep her alive long enough to grow up. And I'm failing her. Every month, I'm choosing between medications, deciding which ones she can skip if money's tight. Every time she gets sick, I wait too long to take her to the doctor because I can't afford the copay. I'm failing her, Jonathan, and I don't know how to stop failing her. Jonathan stood and moved around the bed to where Elena sat. He knelt beside her chair and took her hands in his. Listen to me, Elena Martinez. You are not failing Sophia. You left your country, your career, everything you knew to give her a chance at better care. You work yourself to exhaustion to keep a roof over her head and food on the table. You fought for her every single day since she was diagnosed. That's not failing. That's the most profound kind of success. But it's not enough, Elena whispered. Then let me help make it enough, Jonathan said. Let me be part of Team Sophia. Let me use the resources I have to give her every possible advantage. Please, Elena, let me help. Elena looked into his eyes, searching for something, sincerity, maybe, or trustworthiness. Whatever she was looking for, she must have found it, because she finally nodded. Okay, she whispered. Oh yes. For Sophia, I'll accept your help. Jonathan smiled and squeezed her hands. Thank you. And Elena? Tomorrow, you're not going to clean my apartment. Tomorrow, we're going to sit down and figure out exactly what Sophia needs. All her medications, all her treatments, everything. And we're going to make sure she gets it all. I still want to work, Elena said firmly. I don't want to be dependent on your charity indefinitely. I want to find a way to use my education to build a career here that can eventually support us. Then we'll figure that out too, Jonathan promised. But first things first, Sophia's health. Everything else can wait. They sat in silence for a while, watching Sophia sleep, listening to the steady beep of monitors. Jonathan found himself thinking about how drastically his life had changed in just a few hours. This morning, he'd been a disconnected billionaire going through the motions of his privileged life. Tonight, he was sitting in a hospital room, committed to helping a sick child and her mother, people who, just weeks ago, had been invisible to him. "Jonathan," Elena said quietly, "can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why are you doing this?" "Really? It can't just be guilt about not noticing I existed. There's something more." Jonathan was quiet, thinking about how to answer. "Do you know why I was home early on Friday? Why I heard you crying?" Elena shook her head. "I'd left work early because I was contemplating whether my life had any meaning," Jonathan said. "I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. I have professional success beyond what most people dream of. But I have no real connections, no real purpose. I go through my days feeling empty, wondering what the point is." He looked at Sophia's sleeping face. "And then I found you crying in my kitchen. And I realized that while I've been wallowing in my privileged emptiness, there are people dealing with real problems, real suffering. People like you and Sophia. So this is about you feeling better about yourself?" Elena asked, but there was no judgment in her voice, only curiosity. "Maybe partly," Jonathan admitted. "But it's more than that. It's about finally feeling connected to something that matters. It's about using what I have, this absurd amount of money, to actually make a difference in someone's life. It's about seeing you, Elena. Really seeing you. And realizing that you're probably the most remarkable person I've met in years." Elena's cheeks flushed. "I'm not remarkable. I'm just a mother trying to save her child." "That's exactly what makes you remarkable," Jonathan said. "You're fighting an impossible battle with grace and determination and love. You sacrificed everything for Sophia. You work yourself to exhaustion without complaint. You read Tolstoy on your breaks because you refuse to let circumstances diminish your mind. You're extraordinary, Elena. And it's past time someone told you that." Tears slid down Elena's cheeks. "No one's ever said anything like that to me before." "Then people are fools," Jonathan said simply. They sat together in the quiet hospital room, and something shifted between them, something neither was quite ready to name, but both could feel. A connection. An understanding. The beginning of something that went beyond employer and employee, beyond benefactor and recipient. The beginning of something real. Sophia stirred in her sleep, and Elena immediately leaned forward, checking her forehead for fever, adjusting her blankets. The instinctive mother's gesture made Jonathan's heart ache in a way he hadn't expected. He thought about his own life. His failed marriage, his lack of children, his isolation in his gleaming penthouse. He'd built an empire but lived in poverty of a different kind. Poverty of connection, of purpose, of love. Looking at Elena and Sophia, Jonathan realized he'd found something tonight that he'd been missing without even knowing it, a reason to care about something beyond himself. "Thank you," he said quietly. Elena looked up, confused. "For what?" "You're the one helping us." "For letting me see you," Jonathan said. "For letting me be part of this. For giving me a reason to feel human again." Elena's expression softened. "You're a good man, Jonathan Pierce. Behind all the money and the power, there's a good man there." "I'm trying to be," Jonathan said. "Starting tonight, I'm really trying to be." And in that hospital room, under the fluorescent lights, with the monitors beeping and Sophia sleeping peacefully between them, Jonathan Pierce began the journey of becoming the person he'd always had the potential to be. Someone who used his privilege to lift others up, someone who saw the invisible people around him, someone connected to life in all its painful, beautiful complexity. It had taken following his housekeeper home to find what he'd been searching for all along. Purpose, connection, and the beginning of something that might, given time and care, grow into love. The next morning, Jonathan woke in an uncomfortable hospital chair, his neck stiff and his expensive shirt wrinkled. For a moment, he was disoriented. Why was he in a hospital? Then memories of the previous night flooded back. Elena was still asleep in the chair across from him, her head tilted at an awkward angle. Sophia was awake, though, watching Jonathan with curious dark eyes. "Hello," Jonathan said softly, not wanting to wake Elena. "How are you feeling?" "Better," Sophia whispered. "The breathing thing they gave me helped a lot." "Are you really my mom's boss?" "I am. My name is Jonathan." I'm Sophia. I have cystic fibrosis, which means my lungs don't work right. But I'm still smart. My mom says being sick doesn't make you less smart. Your mom is absolutely right, Jonathan said, charmed by this articulate little girl. What do you like to do when you're feeling good? I like to read, Sophia said. Right now I'm reading The Chronicles of Narnia. I'm on The Horse and His Boy. Have you read it? I have, actually. A long time ago. It's really good. I like how the characters are brave even when they're scared. Sophia paused. My mom is like that. She's brave even when she's scared. Jonathan looked at Elena's sleeping face. I think you're right. She works really hard, Sophia continued. She cleans houses and she's always tired, but she never complains. And she always has time to read with me, even when she's so tired she can barely keep her eyes open. She loves you very much. I know. That's why I try to be brave too, even when the treatments hurt or when I can't breathe good. Because I don't want her to be more sad than she already is. Jonathan felt a lump in his throat. You're a very special little girl, Sophia. My mom says that too. She says I'm her miracle. Sophia looked at him seriously. Are you going to help us? I heard you talking last night. You said you'd help with my treatments. Yes, Jonathan said firmly. I'm going to help. Whatever you need, medications, doctors, treatments, you're going to have it. Why? Sophia asked with a child's directness. Mom says rich people don't usually help people like us. Because it's the right thing to do, Jonathan said. And because your mom works hard for me, and I want to take care of people who are part of my life. Oh. Sophia thought about this. Thank you. That's very nice. Their conversation was interrupted by Elena waking up. She looked around, momentarily confused, then focused on Sophia. Mi amor, how do you feel? Is your breathing better? Much better, Mama. Jonathan and I were talking about Narnia. Elena looked at Jonathan in surprise. You've been talking to Sophia? She's very good company, Jonathan said with a smile. Very well read for 8 years old. She's always been advanced, Elena said proudly, moving to her daughter's bedside and kissing her forehead. No fever. That's good. A nurse came in to check Sophia's vitals, followed by the attending physician. The doctor was pleased with Sophia's progress and said she'd likely be discharged in 2 days if the improvement continued. After the medical staff left, Jonathan stood. I need to go home, shower, and change. But I'm coming back this afternoon. Do you need anything? Food, clothes, books? We're fine, Elena said automatically, then caught herself. Actually, could you bring some of Sophia's books? They're on the shelf in our apartment. And maybe some of her own clothes? Hospital gowns aren't very comfortable. Of course. Give me your keys and I'll get whatever you both need. Elena hesitated. Jonathan, I don't want you going through my things. Then write me a list of exactly what you want, and I'll bring only those things, Jonathan said patiently. Elena, we're past the point of false pride here. Let me help. Elena nodded slowly and wrote out a detailed list. Jonathan took it, promised to return by early afternoon, and headed home. In his penthouse, Jonathan showered and changed, then sat at his desk and began making calls. First, his executive assistant. Claire, I need you to clear my schedule for the next 2 weeks. Everything non-essential gets rescheduled. Essential meetings become video calls. Mr. Pierce, you have the board presentation on Thursday? Postpone it, or I'll do it via video from wherever I am. But I'm not coming into the office for the next 2 weeks. There was a shocked silence. Jonathan Pierce never took time off. He was legendary for his work ethic, for being always available, always present. Are you all right, Mr. Pierce? Claire asked carefully. I'm fine. Better than fine, actually. Something's come up that requires my attention. Personal matters. Of course, sir. I'll handle the rescheduling. Next, Jonathan called his attorney. Richard, I need you to research something for me. A little girl with cystic fibrosis. What kind of medical coverage can we arrange? I want the best doctors, the best treatments, no expense spared. Whose child? Richard asked. Does it matter? Well, if you're looking at establishing some kind of formal guardianship or medical power of attorney, nothing like that. Not yet anyway. Just figure out how to arrange and pay for comprehensive medical care for a child whose mother is uninsured. I can set up a medical trust, Richard suggested. Fund it adequately, designate the child as beneficiary, appoint trustees to oversee medical decisions in consultation with the mother. That would protect everyone legally and ensure the funds are used appropriately. Perfect. Draw up the papers. I want it done by end of week. After several more calls, to his financial advisor about funding the medical trust, to a real estate agent about available apartments in better neighborhoods, to Massachusetts General about setting up a consultation with their best CF specialists, Jonathan finally headed to Elena's apartment. In the daylight, the building looked even more rundown than it had the night before. Jonathan let himself into Elena's tiny studio and stood for a moment, taking it in. Despite its size and age, Elena had made it a home. The books on the shelves were organized by author. Sophia's artwork covered one entire wall, colorful drawings of flowers and butterflies and fantastical creatures. The small kitchen area was immaculate, with herbs growing in pots on the windowsill. But Jonathan also noticed things that broke his heart: the space heater in the corner because the building's heating was inadequate, the towels stuffed around the window frame to keep out drafts, the carefully patched blankets on the beds. Elena and Sophia deserved so much better than this. Jonathan gathered the items on Elena's list, then added a few extras he thought they might need. As he was leaving, he noticed a photograph on the small table beside Elena's bed. It showed a younger Elena in academic regalia, smiling broadly as she held up a diploma. Her master's degree, Jonathan realized. There was pride in her expression, joy, hope for the future. What had it cost her to give up that life? To go from professor to cleaning woman, from respected academic to invisible servant? Everything, Jonathan realized. It had cost her everything. And she'd paid that price willingly, without hesitation, for love of her daughter. Jonathan picked up the photograph and added it to the bag. Elena might need the reminder that she was more than her current circumstances. Back at the hospital, Jonathan found Elena and Sophia watching a movie on Sophia's phone. They both lit up when he arrived with the bag of clothes and books. "You brought Mr. Tumnus," Sophia exclaimed, pulling out a worn stuffed lion from the bag. "I was missing him." "Your mom had him on the list," Jonathan said with a smile. Though she called him Sophia's stuffed lion. "I'm glad to know his proper name." "He's not actually from Narnia," Sophia explained seriously. "But I pretend he is. He's been with me since I was 3 before I got sick." Elena was unpacking the clothes, and she froze when she found the photograph. She looked up at Jonathan, her eyes questioning. "I thought you might want a reminder," Jonathan said quietly, "of who you are. Who you've always been." Elena's eyes filled with tears, but she smiled. "Thank you." Over the next 2 days, Jonathan barely left the hospital. He worked from Sophia's room, taking video calls and responding to emails while Elena read to her daughter or helped with her breathing treatments. The nurses got used to seeing the billionaire CEO sitting in the corner, his laptop balanced on his knees, periodically looking up to check on the patient. Jonathan also got to know Sophia better. She was, as Elena had promised, brilliant, curious about everything, articulate beyond her years, with a wry sense of humor that reminded him of her mother. "Do you have kids?" Sophia asked him on the second day. "No, I don't." "Why not?" "Sophia," Elena chided gently. "That's personal." "It's okay," Jonathan said. "I was married once, Sophia, but it didn't work out. We divorced before we had children." "That's sad," Sophia said with a child's straightforward empathy. "You'd be a good dad, I think. You're nice and you're patient and you don't talk to me like I'm stupid just because I'm a kid." "Well, you're clearly not stupid," Jonathan said. "You're one of the smartest people I've met, regardless of age." "See, Mom?" Sophia said. "I told you he was nice." Elena smiled. "You were right, Mija." That evening, after Sophia had fallen asleep, Elena and Jonathan sat in the chairs on either side of the bed, talking quietly. "My lawyer drew up papers for a medical trust," Jonathan said. It's funded with enough money to cover all of Sophia's care, medications, treatments, doctor visits, everything. Eventually, when she needs it, the transplant. Elena was quiet for a long moment. How much money? Enough. That's all you need to know. Jonathan. Elena, I'm not telling you the amount because I don't want you to feel overwhelmed or guilty or like you owe me something you can't repay. The money is there. It's for Sophia's care. That's all that matters. I do owe you something I can't repay, Elena said. You're giving my daughter a chance at life. How do you repay that? You don't, Jonathan said simply. You just accept it as a gift, the way I'm accepting the gift you've given me. What gift have I given you? Elena asked, confused. Purpose, Jonathan said. Connection. A reason to feel like my life means something beyond quarterly profits and stock prices. You and Sophia have given me that. So we're even. Elena shook her head. We're not even close to even. But thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. There's something else, Jonathan said. I found you a new apartment. Well, not an apartment exactly. A house. 3 bedrooms in a safe neighborhood with good schools. Near the hospital, near public transportation. There's a yard where Sophia can play when she's feeling well. Jonathan, I can't afford. It's paid for. Through the trust. Housing is part of Sophia's care. She needs a safe, healthy environment. The place you're living now is drafty and damp, which is terrible for someone with CF. This is medical necessity, not charity. Elena looked like she wanted to argue, but she just nodded. For Sophia, I'll accept. You can move in as soon as Sophia's discharged. I've already arranged for movers to pack up your apartment and transfer everything. You've thought of everything, Elena said. I'm trying to, Jonathan admitted. Elena, there's one more thing. Your job. You're not working as my housekeeper anymore. Elena's face fell. You're firing me? No. God, no. I'm promoting you. Or rather, I'm helping you find work that actually uses your education and skills. I have connections at several universities and literary organizations in Boston. I can get you interviews, recommendations. But the rest is up to you. Your credentials, your experience, your abilities will speak for themselves. You do that for me? Elena whispered. I'd do anything for you, Jonathan said, then realized how that sounded. I mean to help you. To help you and Sophia. Elena studied his face, and Jonathan wondered what she saw there. Could she tell that his feelings had shifted from concern to something deeper? That every hour he spent with her and Sophia made him more certain that he'd found something precious? Jonathan, Elena said carefully, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Of course. Why are you really doing all this? And please don't say it's just about helping Sophia or feeling purposeful. There's something more. I can see it in the way you look at us, at me. What is this really about? Jonathan took a deep breath. He could deflect, could hide behind the excuse of charity or moral obligation. But Elena deserved honesty. You're right. There is something more. He chose his words carefully. When I followed you home that night, when I discovered Sophia, when I saw you in that hospital, something shifted for me. You weren't just my housekeeper anymore. You were Elena, this remarkable woman who'd sacrificed everything for her child. Who read Tolstoy and Marquez and Kierkegaard. Who left behind a career she loved to save her daughter's life. He paused, then continued. And the more time I spend with you, the more I realize that I'm drawn to you. Not in a predatory way. I'm not trying to buy your affection or put you in an uncomfortable position because I'm helping Sophia. But I need you to know that my feelings have become complicated. You've become important to me. Both of you have. Elena was very still. What are you saying? I'm saying that I care about you. As more than an employee, more than someone I'm helping. I'm saying that for the first time in years, I feel connected to someone. I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be when I'm with you and Sophia. Jonathan, Elena said softly, you barely know me. Then let me get to know you. Really know you. Not as employer and employee, but as equals. As friends, at least. And maybe, eventually, as something more. You're a billionaire CEO, Elena pointed out. I'm a housekeeper with a sick child and a degree that's worthless in this country. We're not equals. We absolutely are equals, Jonathan said firmly. You're one of the most intelligent, capable, strong people I've ever met. The fact that circumstances forced you into a job that doesn't reflect your abilities doesn't change who you are. Elena, you're extraordinary. And I'd be honored if you'd give me a chance to prove that I see you for who you really are. Elena looked at her sleeping daughter, then back at Jonathan. Sophia comes first. Boys, if there's any chance that this, whatever this is, would hurt her or complicate her care, I can't risk it. I would never let anything hurt Sophia, Jonathan said. She's already become important to me too. That little girl in that bed, she's special. The way she's brave even when she's scared, the way she worries about you even while she's the one who's sick. She's amazing, Elena. Just like her mother. We come as a package deal, Elena warned. You can't have one without the other. I don't want one without the other, Jonathan said. I want both of you in my life. However that looks, whatever form that takes. I just want to be part of your lives. Elena was quiet for a long time, thinking. Finally, she said, we can try. Slowly. Carefully. But Jonathan, I need you to understand something. I've been alone for a long time. I've had to be strong on my own, fight battles on my own, make impossible decisions on my own. Learning to trust someone, to let someone in, that's going to be hard for me. I understand, Jonathan said. We'll take it at whatever pace you need. No pressure, no expectations. Just let me be here. Let me be part of this. You're already part of this, Elena said with a small smile. Sophia asks about you constantly when you're not here. When is Jonathan coming back? Do you think Jonathan likes me? Does Jonathan really think I'm smart? You've made an impression. She's made an impression on me too, Jonathan said. Both of you have. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, both processing what had just been acknowledged between them. Then Elena said, Tell me something about yourself. Something real. Not billionaire CEO Jonathan Pierce, but who you really are underneath all that. Jonathan thought about it. I'm lonely, he said finally. I've been lonely for years, maybe longer. My marriage failed because my wife said I was married to my work, that I couldn't connect with her emotionally. She was right. After the divorce, I threw myself even deeper into work because it was easier than dealing with the failure and the loneliness. He continued, I have acquaintances, business associates, people who want things from me. But I don't have friends. Not real ones. I don't have people who care about Jonathan the person, as opposed to Jonathan Pierce the billionaire. Until Sophia. You're the first people in years who've made me feel like a human being instead of a balance sheet. That's sad, Elena said gently. Everyone deserves to be seen as a person. Just like you deserve to be seen, Jonathan pointed out. But I didn't see you. Not until circumstances forced me to. We were both invisible to each other in different ways. But we see each other now, Elena said. Yes, Jonathan agreed. We see each other now. 3 days later, Sophia was discharged from the hospital. Jonathan drove Elena and Sophia to their new house, a beautiful 3-bedroom colonial in a quiet neighborhood with tree-lined streets and well-maintained homes. Sophia's eyes went wide when she saw it. This is ours? We get to live here? You get to live here, Jonathan confirmed. Do you want to see your room? The movers had already transferred everything from the apartment and unpacked most of it. But Jonathan had also made some additions. A new bed for Sophia, a bookshelf stocked with new books, a desk for homework, soft rugs and cheerful curtains. Sophia walked through her new room in wonder, touching everything carefully as if afraid it might disappear. It's like a princess room, she whispered. You're a princess, Elena said, hugging her daughter. You deserve a princess room. There was a room for Elena too, furnished simply but comfortably. And a third bedroom that Jonathan had set up as a library and study, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a comfortable reading chair, a desk with a new laptop. This is for your work, Jonathan explained to Elena. For when you start applying for positions. You'll need a quiet space to prepare applications, write cover letters, Maybe teach online classes while you're looking for something permanent. Elena ran her fingers over the desk, her eyes shining. You thought of everything. I tried to, Jonathan said. I want you both to be comfortable here. Happy. Can Jonathan stay for dinner? Sophia asked. Please, Mama? We should celebrate our new house, and Jonathan should be here because he's the one who gave it to us. Elena looked at Jonathan, a question in her eyes. He nodded. I'd love to stay for dinner. They ordered pizza, Sophia's choice, and ate on the floor of the living room because the dining table hadn't been set up yet. Sophia chatted happily about which books she'd read first from her new collection and whether she could get a fish for her room. Maybe after you're a bit stronger, Elena said. Right now you need to focus on your treatments and getting healthy. After dinner, Sophia started to tire. Elena took her upstairs for her evening breathing treatment and medications, leaving Jonathan to clean up the pizza boxes. When Elena came back down, she found Jonathan on the back porch, looking out at the small yard. She fell asleep during her treatment, Elena said, joining him. She was exhausted but so happy. She kept saying it was the best day ever. It's been a good day, Jonathan agreed. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Elena said, Jonathan, I need you to understand what you've done for us. This house, Sophia's medical care, the hope for her future, you've given us our lives back. I don't know how to thank you for that. You don't have to thank me, Jonathan said. Seeing Sophia happy, seeing you not stressed and exhausted, that's all the thanks I need. Elena stepped closer to him. Can I ask you something? Anything. When you picture your future now, what do you see? Jonathan turned to face her fully. Honestly? I see this. Coming home to a house where people are happy to see me. Having dinner with people who care about me as a person. Being part of Sophia's life as she grows up. Being part of your life as you rebuild your career and rediscover who you are beyond being Sophia's caretaker. That's a very different future than the one you had a week ago, Elena observed. A week ago, I didn't have a future. I had a calendar full of meetings and an empty apartment and no reason to want tomorrow to come. Jonathan took her hand gently. You and Sophia gave me a future worth wanting. That's the gift you gave me, Elena. Purpose. Connection. Elena squeezed his hand. This is complicated. Most worthwhile things are, Jonathan said. I'm scared, Elena admitted. Scared of depending on someone and having them leave. Scared of letting Sophia get attached to you and then losing you. Scared of feeling things for you that I shouldn't feel. What kind of things? Jonathan asked softly. Elena looked up at him, and in her eyes Jonathan saw vulnerability and fear and something that might have been the beginning of love. The kind of things that make me want to be brave, Elena whispered. Like Sophia said, brave even when I'm scared. Then be brave with me, Jonathan said. We'll be brave together. He leaned down slowly, giving Elena plenty of time to pull away if she wanted. But she didn't pull away. Instead, she rose on her toes to meet him halfway. Their first kiss was gentle, tentative, full of question marks and possibility. When they pulled apart, both were trembling slightly. Was that okay? Jonathan asked. More than okay, Elena said. But Jonathan, we need to be careful. For Sophia's sake. She can't know about this, about us, until we're sure. I can't let her hope for something that might not work out. I understand, Jonathan said. We'll take it slow. We'll be careful. But Elena, I need you to know, I'm already sure. I don't know how or why, but I'm sure. You and Sophia are what I've been looking for without knowing I was looking. It's been 1 week, Elena pointed out. And in that 1 week, you've changed my entire life, Jonathan said. Sometimes you just know. Sometimes the right person walks into your life, or you follow them home from work, and everything clicks into place. Elena laughed, then covered her mouth so she wouldn't wake Sophia. You're ridiculous. Following me home like some kind of stalker. Best decision I ever made, Jonathan said with a grin. They stood together on the porch as night fell, holding hands, both of them thinking about the unexpected path that had brought them to this moment. Inside, Sophia slept peacefully in her princess room, her breathing easier than it had been in months, her future suddenly bright with possibility. And in that moment, all three of them, the billionaire who'd learned to see, the professor who'd become invisible, and the little girl who'd taught them both about courage, began writing a new story together. A story about second chances, about love found in unexpected places, about family created rather than born. A story that started with a man following his maid home from work and discovering that the secret she'd been hiding wasn't something dark or shameful, but simply the truth of her humanity, her love for her daughter, her sacrifices, her strength. And in discovering her humanity, Jonathan had rediscovered his own. 6 months later, Jonathan stood in the auditorium of Boston University, watching as Elena walked across the stage to accept her certificate. She'd spent the past 6 months getting her Mexican credentials evaluated and translated, taking additional coursework to meet U.S. requirements, and interviewing for academic positions. Today she was being recognized as a newly appointed lecturer in the Department of Romance Languages and Literatures. It wasn't a tenure-track position yet, but it was a start. It was Elena reclaiming her identity as Dr. Elena Martinez, professor and scholar. Sophia sat beside Jonathan, clapping enthusiastically for her mother. She'd been doing well. The consistent medical care, the new medications, the stable housing had all made a significant difference. She'd gained weight, had more energy, and had only had one minor infection in 6 months. "That's my mom," Sophia said proudly to the stranger sitting next to her. "She's a professor. She teaches about books and poetry and stuff." "That's wonderful," the woman said with a smile. When Elena came off stage, diploma in hand, Sophia rushed to hug her. "I'm so proud of you, Mama." "Thank you, mi amor," Elena said, kissing her daughter's head. Then she looked at Jonathan. "Thank you. For everything. For believing in me when I'd stopped believing in myself." "You did this," Jonathan said. "I just opened some doors. You walked through them." They'd been taking things slowly as Elena had requested, dating carefully, discreetly, while Sophia adjusted to their new life and Elena rebuilt her career. But 3 months ago, they'd sat Sophia down and explained that Jonathan wasn't just their friend and benefactor, he was someone special to both of them. Sophia's response had been immediate and enthusiastic. "Does this mean Jonathan might become my dad? Because I'd really like that." It had been both heartwarming and terrifying. But over the past 3 months, Jonathan had learned what it meant to be a father figure. He attended Sophia's doctor appointments, helped with homework, read bedtime stories, taught her to play chess, and cheered at her school events. He'd also learned what it meant to be in love with Elena, not the desperate, passionate love of youth, but something deeper and more enduring. Love built on respect, on shared values, on seeing each other's flaws and choosing to love anyway. "There's something I want to ask you," Jonathan said as they walked to the car. Sophia had run ahead, excited to celebrate with ice cream. "What is it?" Elena asked. Jonathan stopped walking and took both her hands. "I love you, Elena. I love Sophia. I want to be part of your lives permanently. I want to be Sophia's father in every way that matters. I want to wake up next to you every morning and come home to you both every evening. I want to build a life with you." Elena's eyes widened. "Jonathan, I know it's only been 6 months. I know some people would say it's too fast. But when you know, you know. And I know, Elena. You're it for me. You and Sophia. So I'm asking, will you marry me? Will you let me be your husband and Sophia's father? Will you build a future with me?" Elena was crying, but she was smiling too. "Yes. Yes, of course, yes. I love you, Jonathan. We both do." Jonathan pulled out a ring, a simple, elegant band with a single diamond. Nothing ostentatious, nothing flashy. Just beautiful and real, like Elena herself. He slid it onto her finger, and they kissed while Sophia cheered from the car, having apparently witnessed the whole thing. "Did he ask? Did you say yes? Are we going to be a real family now?" Sophia called out. "Yes." Elena called back, laughing and crying at the same time. Sophia pumped her fist in the air. "Yes. I'm getting a dad. Wait until I tell everyone at school." As they drove to get celebratory ice cream, Jonathan thought about the journey that had brought them here. It had started with him feeling empty and disconnected, with Elena invisible and struggling, with Sophia sick and without hope. But by choosing to see, really see, the woman who cleaned his apartment, by following her home that night, by discovering her secret, everything had changed. Not just for Elena and Sophia, but for Jonathan too. He'd found what he'd been missing, a family who loved him for who he was, not what he had. A purpose beyond profit margins. A future full of possibility and love. Sometimes the life you're meant to live is hidden right in front of you, in the face of someone you haven't bothered to see yet. Sometimes following someone home from work isn't stalking, it's destiny. And sometimes a secret, when finally revealed, doesn't destroy lives. It saves them. All three of them,